Hey class, this topic is taking a look at streams, and we want to understand what surface features are formed by streams. Now, our whole topic of late has been erosional and depositional features. And again, the key idea is that erosional features are formed out of rock through erosion or breaking down. And depositional features are formed by slowing down of the moving water and then the deposition of sands. So those are made out of sand. Now, when we're thinking about a river, we're going to put it into three sections. So the first section here is in mountainous areas, you're going to have a tremendous amount of erosion. And so you have a zone of sediment production. Well, that sediment then is going to need to get transported. And so then there's this area where there's a lot of transportation, a little bit of deposition. And then once that river really begins to slow down, we call that the zone of deposition. So those are some of the key terms: erosion, again, breaking down, and then the features are made out of rock. And the deposition is the slowing down of that water to which sands and gravels are going to pile up. So let's first take a look at ultimately where it happens. The initial part, there's rain. Rain is going to collect because of differences in elevation, and water is going to want to flow from higher elevation to lower elevation. So you have these rills, which basically are almost like little canyons, and then they turn into a gully, again, which is a little bit larger. You can see that in the picture here and this picture here. So those are both erosional features formed by moving water. That's going to culminate into a canyon. Now, that valley, you can see, is very V-shaped. And so canyons and mountains are V-shaped, and the V-shaped are formed by erosion. And so then the V-shaped valley is an erosional feature. Now, streams are going to have different patterns that they form. The first one is called a straight channel pattern. You can see this. This is a Yellowstone River in Yellowstone National Park. Again, a V-shaped. Now, if you go to any of our local canyons and do a little bit of hiking, you're going to see V-shaped valleys as well. Desert regions that have intermittent streams that are only flowing when it's actually raining are going to lead to, again, a feature that's a depositional feature at the base of that movement of water. That is called an alluvial fan. So again, an alluvial fan is a depositional feature, and it's right next to, say, a V-shaped valley formed by a canyon. Now, once that water begins to flow across the fan, it's called a distributary type of channel pattern. In areas that have a lot of sediment, so outside of a glacier and then lots of water coming out of that glacier, you're going to have what's called a braided channel pattern. So at the base of mountains, you're going to see lots of sediments, and it's just going to be like, say, a person's braided hair. All kinds of streams moving, and then the sediment, yeah, it's sands, but it's also a lot of different gravels. Another type of channel pattern is called a sinuous or meandering channel pattern. So this is the channel pattern that you're going to see as you're transitioning from the mountainous area where the sediments are being transported and ultimately on the way to being deposited either in a lake or the ocean. Now, meander means to go back and forth. So you can see here the river is moving back and forth. And at some points, it's going to cut itself off. And what's going to be left is this feature called an oxbow lake. And we're not really in the day where we think about farming as much as maybe 100 or 200 years ago. But you put this apparatus on the outside of an ox, and it will pull a plow. And that's how the oxbow lake got its name. So we're going to take a look at two features of these meandering streams. One that's a depositional feature, and the other that is an erosional feature. So this river is meandering back and forth and back and forth. It's going to eat away at one side, and again, that's called erosion. So a cut bank here or over here is an erosional feature. Now, that's where the water's moving fast. On the inside of that, you have a whole bunch of sand deposited, so that's a sandbar, and it creates a point. So the term is called a point bar. So again, the point bar is a depositional feature, and a cut bank is an erosional feature. And ultimately, they're making this area in between here bigger and bigger. And so that's considered the flood plain. So when you have a flood, you're going to have all water in between those meanders. This does a good job of showing that floodplain, and you can see that there are some tributaries called Yazoo tributaries. There are swamps associated with it. You can see here an oxbow lake, and the edge of that, again, creates the floodplain. Now we've made our way all the way to the ocean, and the key feature there is called a delta. And again, now the tributaries, the rivers are going to sort of branch apart to distribute the sediments. And so those waterways are called distributaries. And that again is a depositional feature. The last example that I'm going to show today is that of the edge or sides of a river, which are called levees. And you can see here natural levees, but it's also the reason why rivers will create new paths, because the levees get built up and then there's a flood and then it will create a new path. We'll take a look at a picture of that. You can see here the edge of the river system, and then these natural levees getting built up, but they're being built up higher, so at some point it could move over to the edge. Well, thank you for listening today, and have a great day.